Okay, so when you're pulling this out, and you can see I've got this one have a captured link on it. Look at this. Not such a great fit, huh? Not a press to fit. Pull it out. To the top. Bottom. Scalloped edge. Down. I have to review the footage on that other one I pulled. Because I didn't make note of that. All right. You want that side down. When you're going back together with this, you can put it in backwards. It'll fit perfectly. But you're going to end up with some piston hitting some bottom of this. Is what you're going to end up with. All right, so we saw that we know now why the other piston got destroyed. And I showed you the busted off power valve. They had this installed backwards. This scalloped, curved, indented side is supposed to be down. That thing came out with it facing up like this. So that is to help clear your piston as it's up. And that thing was broken. So that was a problem there. I showed you the gasket. I'm cleaning all the surfaces. This jug / cylinder, they call them jugs for short, has obviously been in salt water before. You can see the corrosion on the inside, that white powdery stuff. It's also on the outside, and the paint comes off of it. That one obviously was not. That was a freshwater ski. You can tell the difference. So one of the next things that we need to get done in the scheme of things here is to pop out those seals on this. I've cleaned all of the surfaces. So you've got, how many surfaces have you got? You've got this one, and the bottom. So that's that. Clean off all those with a wire wheel brush. Let me get the camera mounted and we'll pull the seal. Okay, so we're going to be taking out these two seals. There's one on this side, one on this side. So I'll just try to show the one on one side to you. All you do is you get you a flat blade, you get it in here, and you pop that thing right out. Real easy. There's your old one. All right, to reinstall your new one, probably best to take a little rag and clean that out. You get your new one out of your gasket set. It's going to have 4 of these in it. And it wouldn't hurt to lube it up a little. Just lightly. And then these push right in. So obviously, okay, let me grab another one since that one's already started. Obviously, you want this side, the cup side, facing in, like that. Boom. So in other words, don't install with this cup facing out. You want this side facing out. Just like an oil seal on any axle or whatever. So to put this in, best get you a socket that fits that perfectly so it can seat, and give it a little tap till it's seated. And there it is. It's in. And that won't damage the inside of your seal or anything like that. Same thing again. You're going to do that 3 more times because you've got this side here. Let's see, you won't see this one because the camera's not on it, but it just get it in, screwdriver. Pop that thing out. Whoop, there it is. Came right out. All right. Do that 4 times and you have all your seals. Okay, so one of the next things we're going to do, we've got all 4 of our surfaces cleaned on our cylinder. We've got the honing done, and you want to clean it all off. I haven't gone with my acetone wipe yet, but you want to size your piston. Because even if you buy a new one, you might get a new piston that somebody sent back and swapped out for another one that was wrong. Or you may have gotten a return that came back in the wrong box or wrong box from the factory. So these are Nomura pistons, and you have got to make sure these things fit. Look at that. See, it's a tight fit like a glove. And this is without rings. So I know right now from that test right there, that is the correct piston for a standard bore. And you see it's got, well, that says 66V on it. These are supposed to be 66E. I need to double check here. This is supposed to be a 66E piston, not a 66V. I'll have to look at what I ordered. Okay, so I did check the Nomura website, and this is the correct part number for a Nomura piston kit. See how it says that? 98 to 05 800, 99 to 02 1200. So it doesn't have to say, because if you get a Yamaha part, this is what a factory Yamaha piston is going to say on it. You see this one's got a few dings in the middle. That is an 800 factory Yamaha piston. This is an 1200 factory Yamaha piston. See the 66V? See the 66V? The F means that points toward the front of the engine. That side of the piston will point toward the front of the engine. I'm pretty sure, yeah, the arrow is going to point toward your exhaust ports when you install them. So it's possible to install these backwards. So your exhaust port is obviously right there beneath your power valve, right there. There's your exhaust port. So you want your arrow when you install the pistons, and when you're going to slip these over. See, there's a 66E. Fits right in there. That's factory Yamaha. Here's a 66V. Factory Yamaha. Let's see. Same difference. This one's got a piston ring stuck in it, though. This one's actually good usable. So little did I know, I had a couple of pistons. I just didn't know that the V's would match up with the E's, but they're the same. So that means that the wrist pin's going to be the same. The Circlip, E-washer clip, whatever that holds the wrist pin in place is the same. And then the thrust washers. So when we're going on with this, this is your wrist pin because it moves on the piston like your wrist does. That's why they call it a wrist pin. These are your Circlips. Got to make sure they're fully seated and in place when you put them in. And on these Yamaha pistons, you have got to have these thrust washers. And the thrust washers are going to go on the inside here and here when you're installing it. So I guess I should do a demonstration for those of you who don't know, because this may be your first time ever doing something like this. So let me pull this wrist pin out and show you. This wrist pin goes in here like this. It's a good tight fit, very, very close machine finish. Then you're going to have a thrust washer. So when you're putting this together, and you'll put this together, well, I'm going to show the whole thing in just a minute. Actually installing it. So then you're going to put a single thrust washer on one side of your bearing. And this bearing, I'll grab one out of here. This is your rod bearing. Goes in the end of your rod. So there, your rod would be going in through here. Then you would go through here like this. Pull this back a little because you still got another thrust washer to install. Okay? You got to go backwards just a little. I'm going to have to use a screwdriver. I have a glove finger. That's why I don't like wearing gloves, but obviously it would have saved my finger yesterday from getting cut wide open. Probably could have used a couple stitches, but there we go. See my other thrust washer? So you've got thrust washer, rod bearing, thrust washer. That's how it goes. This will go in just a little bit more, and then you'll seal it with a Circlip. The Circlip has an opening like this. That opening pointed toward the 12 o'clock on a clock position, which would be up here. This little relief right here, so you can get you a pick or a tiny screwdriver to pry that out when you're uninstalling these wrist pins. So again, I've covered this in a video. That pin right there and that pin right there is where the opening of your rings. Let's see if I can find them. Yeah, okay, where are they? So Yamaha, where is it? Hold on. All right, so this Nomura piston does not have the beveled rings. Let's see if we can get this to focus. See how this ring, in other words, see how it's shaped where it has a little extra piece that comes out at the end of the ring. So this one doesn't have a top and a bottom. The factory Yamahas do. All right, so let's find our roll pin. There's one of them, there's my bottom roll pin. So I want to put a ring on like this. And when you're installing these, you're going to lube all this up with two-stroke oil. It's kind of hard to do this camera work or watching what I'm doing through a camera so that I can get a good video. Let's see here. Let's go down. And it is possible. You've got to be squeezing these rings in with your hand while you're sliding the cylinder down, which is why I say the Yamahas are easier. See? There's that roll pin. The ring's going to squeeze together just like that at the roll pin. So there's one ring on. Other brands of piston ring will not have these type of ends like this. So when you're going together, you got to make sure that your rings, see the roll pin right there in the center? Your rings close on top of the pin. They're offset to maintain pressure. See this? So you can get a ring. That would not be good because number one, your ring isn't going to compress all the way because the pin is going to be pushing it out. They have to compress all the way together at the pins. Now some rings, and you'll get a warning in the piston kit usually, you've got to file the edges of the rings off just a little bit for your ring gap. For your ring, they call it ring gap. But I do not think that is the case with this particular version of ring. This is a Teflon coating that helps that piston break in the cylinder for your first running of the engine. That will wear off very quickly after you fire this thing up. So there you go. There you go. Let's put them on. Okay, bonus. I was digging through my stuff on a brand new set of rod bearings. So those are going in this baby. Okay, so let's put a piston in. How about that? All right. So we've got a brand new piston. I'm not going to worry about the rings right now, but we've got to install the piston. Here's the front of my engine. Look at the F on the piston. So that piston goes directionally like this, okay? Now, we have to stick a wrist pin in. I've already lubed it up with some oil. Now, the fun part is getting those thrust washers ready to go in before it goes into the bearing. So you want to get the wrist pin just barely coming through with enough meat on the wrist pin to stick through so that you can get that first thrust washer in place. Then you're going to come in here. This is a tricky thing because you can drop that thrust washer down into your engine during this stage of your build. Now, I suppose to prevent it, you could try to stand your engine up on end and see how that would work out for you. This is going to be tricky. So there. I'm going in. It's kind of a feel thing. There it goes. Boom. All right, first one's in. Thrust washer is in place. Let's get the second thrust washer ready. There. We're going to go on through. That's probably too far. Let me pause. I'm going to try to video this. It's going to be kind of difficult. I've got my wrist pin coming through. Poking out with a little bit of space. Let's see. It's not quite enough. So let me push it back just a little. It's hard to to get this thing to slide just a little like you want it to. There we go. Let's see if that'll do it. Push my bearing back. I'm gonna get this in here. Every time I get it ready, it's like it just isn't quite enough. This is the fun part, and like I said, I don't usually video this because it's a pain in the ass. Okay, it's just a pain in the ass to try to video this kind of stuff for you guys, because I need my head over in there looking, and I can't do that and I need two hands. So you get the gist. I'm not going to be able to video this. Okay, I couldn't. I had to bend over and look at it and all this other good stuff while I was trying to do that. But it's in. Okay, so how I do it, I'm wearing a glove under a glove because of my cut finger. You stick this finger in, and you can hold that washer. The first one's easy. The second one, not so easy. But you put your finger in to hold the washer in place while you push the other side of the wrist pin through. Now, it's kind of at a stopping point for some reason. It is through all the way, but I'm going to have to use a gentle tap with a socket. 3/8 extension works well to do this next part. So let me show you. Just using that end of a socket extension on the wrist pin, and I'm going to tap on the other end of that with my rubber hammer. And all I'm trying to do is get the wrist pin seated where I want it so that I can put my clips on. Ooh, that wasn't good. My brand new bearing just fell out into the dirt. I've got to do a lot of cleaning for that now. Boy, that's not good. That's what sucks about having a dirt floor shop. Any of you millionaires want to donate money to help me buy a new shop, I'll be glad to accept. So let's see, there's that. That's off center. So just get it to one side, get you one circlip in. That's what we're going on to yet. Next, let me find them. The workbench has gotten too crowded. All right, the first circlip is in. But look at it. Do you see the little groove? Get in here. See this groove right here in front of the screwdriver too? That circlip's got to sit in that groove, and it's not. So this is critical. If you don't get this right, now the other part is I shouldn't be doing this with one hand, because these clips are under spring pressure. You have to compress them to get them in there. And if it pops out, it'll go flying across the shop and I'll never find it. So I've got to seat that circlip into this little groove that the end of the screwdriver is in. So the circlip's in there, but not sealed. So I got to do this with two hands. I had to get the phone out of the holder to get it close enough to give you this. Yeah, this is really a pain trying to video this. The circlip is in place. Now what you want to do, so when you're installing this, first we'll do that. But first, when you're installing this, so you aren't going to be doing all this camera work. Can't hold it on the stand and show you this. So you're covering with one finger like this while you're installing that clip with the other hand. I don't have enough hands to show you, but that's how you have to do it. So that you don't lose the clip in case it does want to pop out on you while you're going in with that. So bear that in mind. Now you push the clip, the little tappings from the other side here to get your groove exposed for the second circle. All right, I'm going to attempt to video the installation of the second circlip. So let's see how this works out for us. So I want my groove 12 o'clock position, just like that. So I'm going in with my circlip. Like I said, you got to compress. So I'm keeping a thumb there while I'm compressing and getting that thing in, okay, like that. Some of the pistons, like if you buy SBT pistons, they're going to come with an E-ring, and you're going to have a pair of snap ring pliers. You see that went in really easily, but that doesn't mean it's in. So they recommend that you not reuse old ones. you better save your old ones in case you lose one of these new ones, is all I got to say. And so what I'm doing here is I am pressing all the edges of the Circlip in, and I'll go and do a final inspection and see if I did it right. Okay, there it is. God, I'm trying not to move too hard. Where's my flashlight so you can see it better? See that? See the little dirt I got on the piston too. That Circlip's in, and so you want me to go 12 o'clock position for the opening. You're inspecting it all the way around, make sure it's fully seated. That one's good. And like I said, you're lubing up all this stuff. Now, let's back out. Back out, back out. Now I've got to lube up this entire piston. First, I'll go ahead and install the other side. I've got to clean that other bearing that fell in some solvent, probably gasoline, and go from there. There it is. I had brake cleaner. And you've got to bare hand this to feel for any pieces of sand or dirt that might have been left, but we're all cleaned up. The brake cleaner dissolved my glove and I had to take it off. So that little nitrile glove or whatever, it dissolved it pretty quickly. But there's that, ready to go. I gotta lube it and put it in. Okay, now we're ready to start thinking about putting our cylinders onto our pistons, onto the block, doing all that fun stuff. First, before we do that, you got to remember to put your gaskets down, number one. Number two, remember back earlier in the video where I showed the lineup pins, you've got one here, none here, and none there. See a little hole, the small hole right there under my thumb. So you want to make sure that your cylinders are set up to go back correctly. This cylinder has 2 dowel pins. 1, 2. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one on this side because it doesn't matter which side they go on, okay? Now, the issue is the original one off of here would have had 1 in it as it came off with the engine, off of the engine. This one has none, and there's only 1. So, exhaust port. It's possible to stick these on backwards, guys. You don't want to do that. So, this piece, the exhaust port, faces away from your intake. Intake, exhaust. Okay? Intake over here, exhaust over here. So these go like this. And I'm going to go ahead and put my other dowel pin in place for this one because the other one has 2 on it already. So this dowel pin is going to go right here in this hole as I'm getting ready to do this. So there it is. I'm going to give it a little tap with something because I feel like it didn't seat all the way. I'm going to just tap it with these pliers, the back head of this thing. Hear the difference in the sound? When it's seated, it has a more solid ring to the sound. All right, next step, let me get my gaskets. Oh, and before I do that, when you're putting the pistons on, I didn't mention it, but you see how I've got this in the up position? You're rotating here. You're going to have to do 2 hands because this will want to flop and not let you move it. But each side, when you're installing, you want the rod up all the way. It just makes it easier because see how far down that is? You can't work with that. So when you're done with one side, you just crank it over like this. You got to be easy with this because your piston's going to go down. Get this crankshaft up like this, these 2 lobes up, and then your rod is up in the furthest up position. Much easier to put your piston on. And it's always best to double check those Circlips because that is a easy point of failure. That clip, not much to it. That clip comes out, the wrist pin slides out of position and stuff tears up. Double check your Circlips before you install your cylinders. All right, here we are. Let's set our gaskets. Once again, it is possible to install these the wrong way. Yeah, so they go like this, through the two fangs, sticking down right there, like that. Wrong. Right. Not to mention, they'll only go one direction. So this is right, but not right, because you've got to do a flip. So your dowel pin lines up. See that? So the gasket has a top and a bottom. And it'll only fit one direction. You can't screw this up. All right, so the other thing, same thing over here. It's going to go like this, but the dowel pins. It's easier if you take your dowel pins out and put them in the base, because it'll hold your gasket. See how you can get this out of alignment. So that's what the pins are there for. Keep your bolt holes, keep everything perfectly aligned. And remember, these gaskets will cut you like a razor blade. I showed you my finger. It sliced like halfway to the bone. All right. All right, we're getting ready to set our cylinders. This is my pin. Ideally, you want these dowel rods in the bottom part of your block. Lube everything up. Pour you a little bit of two-stroke in over your rod bearing down there. That's on the crankshaft. There's some holes. It won't hurt to pour you some two-stroke in there. Pour you some two-stroke here. There's 2 holes here, 2 holes here. Same goes for the other cylinder. 2 holes, 2 holes. Rotating this around to where it's exposed like this, so that you can lube all this up really well with some two-stroke, because you're basically assembling an engine. You don't really want to be dry starting this thing. So, I mean, there should be some lube on the crankshaft. That's why it comes in a bag when you buy a new one. This wasn't a new one. So I've lubed it up with oil. I'm lining it up. Well, let's don't worry about the lining up right now. Let's get a cylinder on here. So I'm going to get my top ring ready. I've lubed up. I had to lube up this ring so that it would squeeze together like it's supposed to. So this is squeezing over its pin. This is my cylinder. This is the wrong one. This is this one, because it has the 2 pins already in the base of it. Dowel rods. Let's go. Making sure that we put our exhaust port, which is that right there, that big square, opposite of the intake. So like this. I've kind of gone crooked there. So it's possible to do this all at once if you can squeeze all the rings at one time. Let's see, that's pretty much got it right there. Let's see if we can do it. It's easier to do one ring at a time. Get the top ring, boom, get the bottom ring once the top's on. Top's on. All right, let's go with the bottom. There. Now see, you got to be careful not to bend your gasket doing this while those dowel rods are there, so the gasket stays in place and doesn't go everywhere. See how I got all good, fitting nicely. Let's go on down and let's get ready to seat. Keep the fingers out of the way. Don't cut yourself with the gasket like I did. But that was taking it off, trying to pull it off with the old cylinder. There we go. That's in. That's in. All right. There we go. That's all the way down. That's seated. And you can take your cylinder bolts. They're 17mm heads. Snug them down would be your next step. I'm going to put blue Loctite on mine. All right, let's zip these down. Just snug them. Not there yet. There we go. It just got to the seat. It's not quite there. That's good enough. So this isn't, they're loose. Okay, I'm not even really putting any tension on them. But this is a 29 foot-pound total torque. So your first torquing is going to be 17 foot-pounds. and you'll do a diagonal cross pattern, doesn't matter. Do one here, one here, one here, one here. 17 foot-pounds first torque, 29 foot-pounds second torque. Then you're done with the cylinder base. That is not the same as the cylinder head. The head is up here. This is the base down to the block, 29 foot-pounds. Second cylinder, let's put it on. I had to lube up my piston rings on both. Had to take it off. The ring, the top ring, the bottom ring wasn't giving me trouble, but the top ring wanted to be a pain. So it was just too dry. The aluminum was fitting too tightly. Make sure your openings are lined up with your roll pins and squeeze. So there's my top one. Squeezing together. Let's go ahead and get our second cylinder staged. Oh boy, it's kind of kicking out in the back. Let's see. I don't know whether this is going to work or not. Let's see. Get around it better. I can kind of push from the front. Let's get this thing started. I do not like video in this because the other nice thing about Yamaha is with the gap that you have in the cylinder on the one side, you can look and see your rings as you're going down on there. There we go. Get it down. It's on. And I'll blue Loctite my rest of my bolts. It does call for them. And you can check these torque specs and whether it's supposed to have Loctite on it or not. Yamaha Ski Clinic online. They've got a website for each engine. Yamaha Ski Clinic. On that website, they tell you all the torque specs. I got so much stuff in my parts bucket I can't find my head bolts. Anyway, I'm going to cut the video off here. I'm going to put my 4 bolts in. All right. For those of you who don't know, this is a torque wrench. This is a foot-pounds torque wrench. You can get them at AutoZone. You can get them at Harbor Freight. You can get digital ones. All of those numbers there are the amount of foot-pounds that you're going to torque to. You start with that number at 0. You go up. I want to have 17 foot-pounds for my first torquing. When you're done with your torque wrench, you want to back it all the way off like this. You don't want to leave it setting with torque on it all the time when it's stored in your box. So let's get up to 17. So we get back to 0. There, is that it? Yes. See, it's starting. This one starts at 10. So I'm going to count 2, 4, 6, 7. That would be 17 foot-pounds right there. All right, let's get back up over here. That's going to be my first torquing on this block. I'm doing the Mechanic 101 for y'all. I always assume that people know how to do this stuff, and that would be a mistake. So let me get up as far as I can, and we're going to torque. So let's go here. And 17 is just your first torquing. These go to 29. So when we hear it pop click, we'll know we're at 17. And you see I just snug these down so they're nowhere near tight yet. All right, we're getting there, snugging up. All right, this is a part where you're going to need something to hold your engine. Let me get a strap because I don't want this causing. Let's try this again. I got it strapped. We're listening for the click. It should click when it reaches 17 foot-pounds. And we're still really loose as far as this goes. And we're not tight enough on our engine either. How about that? Let me try a different bolt. from another angle. This is why I don't video this, because you run into all kind of problems, and then you got to redo the video and da-da-da-da-da. I don't like videoing the work. Because all kinds of stuff can go wrong, like cutting your finger, dropping stuff in the dirt. Just shows you that this stuff is not easy. You hear that? There's my click. All right. Never got it out of this one. Let's see if I can get it back on it. Click. That's 17. Now we want to go to 29. So we know we're not there yet. We still got to install power valves. I know we're getting close. There it is. All right, I can't get to this next one because the strap's in the way, but you get the point. I've got to take the strap off to get to this one, I think. Let's see, maybe I can get on it. Kind of a pain. Like I said, this is why I don't video the work, because all kinds of things can go wrong, and I don't like doing multiple takes of anything. All my videos that you've seen, except for this one, are one take and done. I don't do a whole lot of editing. All right, now, let's get this back down. Over here. Now we got to go to 29. All right, so we're at 17 to the 6, 7, 8, 9, 20. Now, so we're sitting at 20. If we go all the way, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Centered up. Right there. That's 29 foot-pounds. And that'll be the final torque at 29 foot-pounds. Get this back up. Can barely get on this stuff. Let's see. I'll try this one first since it's my hardest one. And then you got to do this for both cylinders. Not just this one. Both of them. It's tough getting that thing on there. Going to 29. That thing's going to want to turn on me because we're pulling harder now. Oh, it came off. It's like I said, I don't like videoing the work. Too many little things can go wrong. I don't have a videographer, editor, all that crap. I'm all by myself. There it is, 29. We'll go over here, diagonal from it, and do another 29. Don't know why anybody would want to watch this. 29, there it is. $29, there it is. All right. And then the one last bolt, 29, you get the gist of it. Got to do it 4 more times on the other cylinder. I'm not videoing that. Okay, we got to get ready to put power valves in. With this particular one, I've got 2 with this loose pin. Let's watch this. See how that pin moves? That ain't good. So what I'm going to do is you've got to clean all this carbon off of here. You can see it. I've already cleaned one. This is a non-loose pin one. It can be a little black, but you want all that thick carbon off of there. This one, I can't really move the pin. Ideally, that's what you want. So, since I've got 2 with moving pins, I'm going to put both of those in this engine with captured links like this. That pin cannot slip out the side with this link. So, I'm going to clean that up. I don't think I need to show you how to clean that up. I've got a vise I can stick it in, or I can hold it in my hand with a glove, and I've got to get all this carbon off of there. All that carbon build up, you want it smooth. because that carbon buildup can make it so that it doesn't slide like this in the engine, and it'll break that electric motor that's $300 that operates these. So you want to get this carbon buildup off of here, and then we'll install them properly, and I'll show you that. Okay, we're getting ready to put our power valves in. I'm going to show you how to do that. First of all, these are the bolts that go into the covers. I've already wire wheel brushed my cover surfaces, gotten all the gaskets off, cleaned them up, ready to go. Both covers are good now. You want to make sure those surfaces are clean. That surface is clean. I've already done that. But these bolts, you want to wire wheel brush these bolts because these will break very easily. I've seen them broken in many skis before. So it's a lot easier to do with a bench grinder. If you've got a wire brush on a bench grinder, then you can just hold the bolt and put it in there rather than having two hands. You could do this with one on a bench grinder. But of course, you got to watch it because you get this thing rolling too hard and zip it, and that thing will go flying. Like I said, dirt floor shop, not so good for that sometimes. But yeah, just clean these up, because if you don't, and that goes for any of the bolts that are going in the engine, sometimes, especially if you've been in salt water, they're going to have that white corrosion when you pull the bolts out. And you're going to need to wire wheel brush all of your bolts before you go putting them back in. All you saltwater people, you're going to have that to contend with. And you're going to need to clean those bolt holes out as best as possible, blowing them out with air. But you want these threads nice and clean before you go sticking those bolts back in these covers, because these are prone to breaking very easily, okay? All right, so wire wheel brush your bolts, clean them off, Loctite blue. Same goes for the 3mm and the 4mm small bolts that hold the power valve in, Loctite blue. Power valves, I've got these clean. And so this part right here faces down. That's what destroyed that other engine, people. They installed their power valve wrong, had an incorrect installation of their power valve, and they trashed their engine with it. So what can you do about that? Not much. So power valves go with, I call it the scalloped edge, the indentation facing down. Whoa! And these are my ones with the pins are going to come loose on it. So they're going to have captured links holding them in, so that will never be an issue with these loose pins. So that's going to have a captured link. This is going to have a captured link, and everything will be wonderful as a result. So this one's a tight fit here. I don't know what's going on. There it goes. It's got to go down in there, doesn't it? It's not wanting to. So something's holding it up. Probably some gunk in here. But you got to get them in. All right. I'm not going to show me cleaning, da-da-da. We'll get to the next part, and I'll show you that. Okay, we got both power valves in. I've used the 4mm Allen to get both of the Allen bolts in that hold these. You want to test your power valve. You want to make sure, see how that's easily moves. Nice and smooth, okay? That's good. Same over here. Like I said, I got to watch it because these pins are, I got the slidey pins going, so I got to center them. This is how it goes. Let me pull this out. Now that's dirty. All right, your power valves are in. Then you want to take your pulley with the little 1 and 2 thingy on it. Have these two little holes facing down and stick this thing in there. You do not want to put this one in the wrong place. So we're getting it started. And then we're going to take our captured link. You got to have the bolt hole up. Captured link. We got to back that off a little bit. Got to have two hands. As a matter of fact, this glove is too much. This is why I don't like working with gloves, but sometimes it's necessary. I like to be able to feel my work. Lots of mechanics are the same way. but that oil isn't good to be on your skin and all that sort of thing. So there we are. So we're going in. There's the hole coming through. Boom, boom, boom. You're going to line it up. There's the hole lined up with that. Let's see. Perfect right there. So let me get the phone out of this holder. There it is. You're lining up your hole. And these two are down for 1 and 2 in the back side of your engine. Do not put that in the front. You'll have to take all that back out when you go install your engine. This goes in the back. So, cylinder number 2, cylinder number 1, cylinder number 2. This goes on cylinder number 2 in the back, holes down. Let's put our bolt in. I've already put Loctite on it, I think. Let's see, yeah. So this is the 3mm Allen head bolt. Let's get it started. The blue Loctite, it does call for that. Yamaha Ski Clinic's your friend. Tell you what the torques are on all this. I don't have a, well, I do have an inch-pound torque wrench, and I'm sure this is inch-pounds because this is a small bolt. But I just go snug, go good and snug with that 3mm Allen. Look at this. Very easy and smooth actuation. That's what you want. Okay. Let's go to the other one. I'm going to go ahead and have this, get that with a clip and a washer ready to go. And it's going to come through from this side like this. It doesn't hurt to lube the thing up a little bit with something. I don't know what I do with my oil bottle. There it is. Let's put a little bit of oil on that thing. I'm going to put some on my finger and oil it down. That just helps it go through there a little easier. I've already got my 3mm Allen ready to go. So we're going to go through. All right, got to get my captured link ready. That's the brand new one. Let it fall down so that the holes line up. Going in. And then this one, it doesn't matter on this one which way it's just finding the hole is the hard part of this one, because it's not as easy to twist around as that one because it doesn't have the big wheel thing on the end of it. Let's see, where's the hole? Would really help if I could see it, but you get the gist. I'm not gonna, this is why I don't video, because little stuff like this just takes so much time. So I guess pay attention to where the hole is when you set it up, and it won't be quite as hard for you. There it is, right there. So there, it's lined up. And when it lines up, it's exactly the opposite. And what I mean by that is the groove. See that? One is this way, one is this way. So that's how that one works. And this can still be put on even with it out, like even with it, you know, partially installed like that. Let's see. This goes on to here like this. This is why I don't like the factory Yamaha piece, and I like to put on the waveeater version, because this thing can go on and off without. The waveeater version has a spring and a washer and all that. It's just harder for it to pop out and then lose control of one of your valves. Okay, I am back working on the 800 engine top end build. I've got one dome that's a little, it's got, it took a little damage. I've got 3 of these 800 heads, and all of them, that's a perfect dome there. See where the damage, I've wire wheel brushed it. You could still run them like this. I guess it's maybe not ideal for the fuel vapor and combustion, but I don't have any I don't have any pieces that feel like they're going to break off. I've smoothed them. Now you can go over this with a stone and try to get it down a little bit more. Take it to a machine shop and let them put a new surface like this on it. That can be done. I'm not going to do it. So maybe not best practice, but that's how I'm handling this one. I have cleaned these surfaces for these little covers that go over where the power valve deals are. I did just check and make sure that my bolts are tight in the power valves for the parts that hold all that together. As I showed you, I had the captured style links because I've got one pin that would slip right out and drop that thing right down. So I'm digging out gaskets now out of my gasket set. You're gonna need these. These are metal. I've had gasket sets where they're not, and well, just I don't know how good that is. So I'm gonna put those on. I did put Yamaha bond on here because I have found that these like to seep air, tiny little bubbles. So I put a little Yamaha bond on these, and maybe that isn't correct to do that either. But when I do a pressure test, I've found that these like to seep. Now that was using paper gaskets, so may not have been necessary with these because I know I don't use any gasket sealer on the head gasket, and I don't use any gasket sealer on these base gaskets, and they're metal crush gaskets as well. But I found that these covers like to seep. That's been my experience. So let's find the bolts for these covers. Should be in here. They needed cleaning up. They were kind of rusty and crusty. And remember, this is inch-pounds of torque on these things. Don't go crazy. You will break these. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm missing a couple. Well, it's probably because they're already out. I'm gotta go dig some out. But yeah, I've got that done. Got this all together using the factory Yamaha style link. Did I put my clips? No, I've got to go back and take that off because I didn't put my clip in. I didn't put the clip with the washer in. It's on over here. I don't know if you can get it. I'm trying to do the phone on a stand, and it isn't ideal by any means. So right there, see the clip and the washer. I didn't do that. So you get ahead of yourself sometimes, especially when you're trying to video it and do something for a camera. So let me find my washer and clip. We'll put those on. Now, I found the bolts. They're rusty and crusty. I'm gonna have to wire wheel brush these. I really need to put my brush on my bench grinder. It would make this so much easier than doing it with a drill in one hand and holding the bolt in the other. So I'm gonna do that. I'm not gonna show that. I don't think you need to see that. It's just, you know, wire wheel brush on a drill. If that's all you got, clean them up. Clean up the threads. Probably shouldn't be doing it right next to an open engine. But anyway, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, I got my bolts all cleaned off. And I do distinctly remember that you have to have this piece on the end of the head toward the exhaust. In other words, it sits on top like this, and then the exhaust bolts onto it. Trying to remember which way it goes. Like this or like this. I can look at one of my old videos, I guess. Because this goes through, you've got two longer head bolts that go through this. You do want to put blue Loctite on all these. And then you've got the bracket that goes under these two bolts on this end. So you can't just bolt the covers on because a bracket goes under these two right here. So you got to remember that. Yes, so this does have a top and a bottom. The exhaust comes off of this side, it goes out. It goes over here, a big pipe connects and comes over and crosses back over and down. So this has a top and a bottom. This is the top because it's painted. See how it's painted? This side isn't painted. It would have been nice and painted when they assembled the engine ready to go in, so it goes like this on top of the head. So there's two head bolts that are longer than the rest. I'm gonna blue Loctite all of them to get my gasket. Let's get this thing going. Let me Loctite up my bolts and then I'll video it. All right, I found my little bracket. And obviously it can't fit like that. It only fits one way, like that, on there. And then your cables will go in that. That's got to go on under your bolts for your cover. I've got the head gasket laid out in the proper orientation. It is possible to put it on backwards. That's backwards. How do you know it's backwards? See how that metal is not covered by the gasket? Right there and right there. Got to have this on the correct orientation like this. Okay, see it covers up. It will fit backwards, but you're going to have all kind of problems. It's not going to work. You're going to have no pressure. That's the way your head gasket goes, and they are double metal head gaskets, and yeah, they can cut you too, so be careful pulling these off if they're tight. It seems like the bottom ones give you more trouble. But so let's go ahead and set. Make sure you put this on the correct way as well. See the big curves that they cover that side? So it's possible to put them on backwards. You don't want to do that. That's the way it goes right there, like that. Okay. All right, and then there's your bolts. These are for mounts that go into the exhaust. You're not going to fool with these right now. Just the 6 and the 6 on the bottom here. Okay. This was a place for a heat sensor, but these use the heat sensor down on the exhaust instead of up on the head. But that's what that is. You don't use that on this application. So to do this, we know that we've got two head bolts that are longer. This is a standard one. And the two long ones. Because the two long ones have to pass through this. Almost has to go like that, doesn't it? Nope, it goes like this. No, it doesn't. Okay, so this only fits in one place, just like that. It's like that. So it's on the front side of the engine. This, your long bolts have to go through here, like this. Go ahead and you got to line up through the gasket and all that other good stuff. So you're gonna have to play around with it, finger tighten, till you grab some threads. There's one. Same here. So this will only fit one way. You can't put it on backwards. I'll go ahead and get my other two down on this end started. There's 1, 2. I do put blue Loctite on all these, and then the rest will start getting those threads, grabbing threads, getting them started. And at this point, I really want to plug up my spark plug holes so I don't knock anything down into the engine now, because it's going to be sealed up where I can't access it anymore. So I'm going to stop, and I'm going to go and put some paper, stuff some paper into my holes, because I don't want to get anything down in that engine on this new build, fresh build. I don't want any foreign objects in my cylinders. Be right back with that. Okay, so stuffing some shop rags. They're a little more durable than paper towel, the shop towels, into my holes to prevent any foreign debris from getting into my cylinders. I believe this is, no, it's not a 10. This is probably another 12 millimeter deal. I'll let you know in a minute. But I do know that the torque for this, the torque is 11. So you're gonna go, your first torquing is 11 foot-pounds, and the second torquing would be 27 foot-pounds for the head. And of course, on the head, let's see if I can show this. See the numbers? There's 3 and 4. This should be 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're starting in the middle and you're working your way out, just like you did on the case. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 over on that end. So torque sequence is important that you do it that way, because you're dealing with a piece of aluminum and you don't want to warp it. You don't want to create undue stress on this as you're putting it together. So let me get my little wrench ready. I'm going to use the impact to just run them down snug, not torqued, and then we'll torque it. Okay, so let's run the bolts down. This is 12 millimeter. These are 12 millimeter. So we're going to run them down just to the stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now there we go. That's all. That's getting it started. So now we go with the first torquing with an impact wrench. Before I do that, I want to get these covers covered up as well, so that there won't be any issues with dropping anything down into those while we're working on this engine. So let's do that right now. Okay, let's put the covers on. Get these going. One we don't have to worry about with the little bracket. Finger starting all of this. You don't want to start this stuff with an impact. You might mess your threads up. These are easy to break, as I've mentioned, very easy to break. Sorry about my air compressor noise. I always forget to turn it off when I'm videoing. So I'm just starting these 4 on this one. I'll start the 4 on the other one. Don't have to worry about a bracket here. You do have to worry about a bracket here. Where's my other bolt? There it is. It helps when you line them up. There we go. These are good and snug. Let's just be real easy with these, running them down, because this is an inch-pounds of torque. I want to think 72 or 76, something like that, inch-pounds. So I'm just going to let it go in until it stops. And you hear, I'm not ratcheting this thing hard. I'm just letting it roll them down and stop. Roll down and stop. So I'm not even going to, that isn't even going to crush the gasket. But it's going to have that ready. That one got a washer under it. These, oh, I did forget to mention, every one of these bolts has a washer underneath it. I'm trying to see this one. Yeah, it's just painted black, I think. Let me make sure. I'm going to back it out a little bit. Yeah, it's there. It's painted black. It makes it blend in real well. All right. Now we go with torquing. Okay, on the Ski Clinic website, I could not find the torques for these, but I'm going to go with 72. Same thing. This is my inch-pound torque wrench, just a 1/4 inch drive, so you know you're dealing with small stuff. And same thing here. You dial in, you leave them off when they're not in use, and then you get up to the bottom where the 0 first touches your first reading, and then you start dialing. So where's 70? There's 80. There's 70. So let's get up to where 70 is. We're getting close. Well, that would be 60. Ooh. Just wanted to change lenses on my car. So I'm at 60 right now. Back to 0 takes it to 70. And I'm going to go 76. That's what the carbs are done at. Hopefully that's not too much. Inch pounds. And crossing my torques. As they get snug, I'm crossing over to the next one. I'm not at my torque yet, not at what I want it to be. All right, we're getting there. All right, so here we go. Down, down, down. To say these, I've had these break on me before, and I got lucky and had, there it is. There's the click. It's a little quieter on this one, so you hear that? There's the click. There's the click. There's the click. You just wait for it. The wrench just kind of gives when it gets to the torque you've set it at. I haven't reached any torque specs on any of these yet on this side. Getting there. Getting close. There it is. Go diagonal. There it is. There it is. There it is. Those are torque to spec. All right, now I'm done with that wrench for now, so I'm going to back it all the way back down. No torque on the wrench because I want it to maintain its integrity as far as correct torques for what I'm torquing. So you don't want to leave tension on your wrench when you put it away in storage. There's a reason that these are put and kept in boxes. Because I worked in aviation parts with mechanics, and if they ever dropped a torque wrench, we had to send that torque wrench off and have it recalibrated. You could not take a chance in an aviation application with having an incorrect torque on any of those engine parts or just stress points on it. So that's why torque wrenches usually come in, they've got a case to put them in so that if you drop them, the wrench is saved from impact. Let's see. That one's done. Now we're going to go on to the head gaskets, 12 millimeter. There's my socket. I'm going to need an extension, I think. Let's see. Probably help. I can do it without an extension. All right, so we're going to go 11 foot-pounds. We're going to go 11 foot-pounds. So coming back up here, we at the bottom yet? Hard to look through this thing. My lighting is not perfect in this dark shop. Let me look here. It starts at 10 on this one. There's 10. So we're on the 0. That should be 10 foot-pounds when I start on my bottom. So we just go one more line over. That's 11 foot-pounds. That's my starting torque for the cylinder head gasket. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll start here. I'm not even going to the full 11 yet. We're just going to get them all snugged. And then we'll start getting my first full torque. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's 5. Here's 6. 7 and 8 are over here. 9 and 10 are down here. 11 and 12 are over here. All right, I've got them all just pretty much snugged down. Trying to keep the same pressure on all of them as I'm going around doing this sequence. All right, now we're going to get down to it. I may need to strap this thing again when I get on the 27 dually bopper because it may want to move on me again. All right, let's see if we can get one down to 11. There it is. There's 11 on 1. 11 on 2. 11 on 3. 11 on 4. 11 on 5. 11 on 6. 11 on 7. 11 on 8. Now you notice when I'm doing the torques, I'm all the way at the end of the wrench. I'm all the way at the end of the wrench doing my torques when I'm ready to do the torquing, because that's where you need to have your hand. 11 on 9. 11 on 10. 11 on 11. And 11 on 12. Now we go up to 27. Like I said, I may need to strap this. I've got to loosen my... You tighten this when you're at your set torque so this doesn't move on you. So I am at 11. I'm going to go back around to the 0. That puts me at 20. And then I want 7. So there's 2, 4, 6, and 7 right there. That should be 27 foot-pounds. 27. Because they're not that big of bolts. Let's go. All right. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to keep my pattern. I'm not going all the way just yet. Just getting them all a little more snug than they were. And then I'll go back with the final 27. So we're keeping even pressure across that aluminum head. Oh, ooh, I went all the way on that one while we're torquing it down. Pulled a little too hard on the one, but it's going to be there for us already. So we're getting close. All right, let's start back. Now we're going full 27 on all of them. There it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. There. 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 And there. And that's it. The head is torqued on. These power valve covers are torqued there, and pretty much the engine is built. Now, what you have to do is put on the exhaust, or at least the way I'm pressure testing, I have to do it with the exhaust in place. If you were to buy special plates that cover each exhaust port up and have separate shorter bolts, you could do your block pressure test with plates here. Mine, I did it with one plate built onto the exhaust. So I have to put this piece of the exhaust on in order to do my pressure testing. But that is what would be the next step in testing this out. I did have to go back and I forgot. I put this on without putting the washer. Both sides on the inside here. The outside had it over here, but washer and a lock. That little thing there. So I'm putting those on now. It wasn't a critical misstep, but just little things, bunch of little things. And it helps not to get distracted or come back a different day doing videos like I end up having to do sometimes, waiting on parts or whatever. You've got to go over your work and check and make sure you did not forget anything. Well, I guess that silver bolt should have been there. It doesn't matter, they're all the same. Let's see, again, how's this go? Like this, and then over like that, and that boot slides over, and then Yamaha uses this clip to keep that from being able to slide off. I truly like the kit that the waveeater has with the spring. It keeps a spring tension on it. I like it better than this because, I don't know, it just seems like it would be easy to knock that off. I guess if nobody's messing with the engine, it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, it would be easy to knock that off. So one of the other things you could have done, instead of shoving cloth in the top like I did, just thread your spark plugs in a little bit like this. So that's what I'm going to do now, because in order to pressure test it, they do have to be in there and they have to be snugged up. And you don't have to worry about the water passages on a pressure test. Don't have to worry about plugging any of your water passages up, because you're testing the integrity of the engine. If it's leaking and you don't see bubbles, then yeah, you've got a problem. That thing's leaking into a water passage somewhere. You might have a crack or bad flat surface or what have you. So let's go ahead and I got to work on getting the exhaust bolted on here so that I can do a block leak down pressure test. And I'm going to want to clean that up with a little bit of acetone before I do the next part. I'll tilt the engine over so we can see that a little bit. Okay, let me take this out of the holder and show you something important. I've mentioned the dowel pins. You can see there's two of them on this side, and there's none over here. There's no place for one over here at all. So you're going to have one cylinder that has line-up dowel pins, one cylinder that doesn't. So you got to make sure over here that you don't have any setting inside the cylinder. We're good. Both are empty. So one side's going to use them. One side, it ain't going to work if you got them. If they're sitting in here, you got to take them out, because one side of the exhaust has none whatsoever. And so my next step, I just pulled the gasket off of here. You can see somebody used that gold gasket sealer. I've never had a problem with the exhaust leaking. I guess it is a possibility. Personally, I haven't run into it. That doesn't mean it can't happen. So my next step is to wire wheel brush all of this and get it clean and ready to put together an exhaust to do build. Now I've got to take this exhaust apart because my plate where I do the pressure test fits right here. The new gasket set does come with this gasket. This is kind of a pain in the butt to get out, especially if you're trying to do it with this staying in the ski. It's easier just to remove the exhaust and do it on the, yeah, see, it's got a bolt that goes from the opposite direction there on the top and then forward down here. But these are, I think they're 12 millimeter also. Boom, take it apart. This thing can be really hard to get apart sometimes. Every one of them that I've dealt with was difficult to get apart. So bear that in mind. It's not your ski, it's all of these. I think there's lineup pins right there, and then there's another one on the other side. And so it makes it a little difficult because this is a very precise fit, and this is the exhaust. So that gasket gets a lot of heat, and it likes to stay in there. And I have to separate these for the way that I do block pressure tests. And I told you, you can do it with plates built onto there and not have to worry about doing it the way that I do it. This is a one plate method the way I do it. I use one plate instead of two. Shops would be doing it, putting plates on here to test it because they don't have the exhaust to test if they're building an engine. But this is just the way I do it because I usually have the whole ski and I just use a one plate exhaust block off method. And I went to my local welder shop and had them fabricate a plate out of aluminum for me to do this. You'll see that. All right, so I've gone ahead and wire wheel brushed my exhaust manifolds. That's paint. That's black paint that you see on there. I'm not going to worry about getting all the paint off. You want to feel it. Feel the surfaces. See if you missed the spots. Your fingers will tell you what your eyes want sometimes. You want it smooth. You don't want any little pieces of the old gasket. Now, I also took apart the two pieces. There's the other piece back there. It came right apart. And this piece coming right apart tells me that this engine failed shortly after whoever built it. Because the heat of this melds that gasket together, and those pieces are never easy to get off. So this thing failed at very low miles, and it failed. We already saw why it failed, because they put one of the power valves in backwards. It hit the piston and tore the engine up. So it did not last long, not even long enough to heat the thing gasket up and weld it properly on there. So got to put those power valves in the right way. Or this is what happens with the Yamaha power valve engine. And I'm sure whoever did that, or whoever they likely paid a mechanic to do it, and it failed. And they probably were out a whole bunch of money, or maybe they tried to do it themselves. I don't know. But you can put them in the wrong way. It'll pass the block test. When you go do the fire up test, it's gone. And I think that's what happened here. So with your gasket assembly, once again, we've got a one-way gasket. It's only possible to put it on one direction or it's going to be wrong because of the dowel pins. See that? It'll fit this way. It ain't going to work that way because there are no places for those pins to go through the gasket. So it has to go like that. And you slip it on, no sealant on this. All right, so now we're putting the exhaust manifold on. It is 29 foot-pounds of torque for the bolts that go on here. We're going to help, our lineup pins are going to help us get everything lined up. Don't let your gasket fall out of place while you're doing this. I think I got it on the first shot. Whoop. It'll stay there while I get some bolts ready. Remembering 2 of your bolts had a bracket holder or place for a wire tie wrap to go through and hold the wires. It's impossible to put it on backwards because it won't fit the other way. Let's see, this has to go like this. So it is, let me make sure I'm doing this right. It's got to face away from the bolt like this. Like this. I'm starting my threads. Bracket there. Bracket there. That's where you put your tie wraps to hold your wires. And remember, four long bolts at the top, 4 short bolts at the bottom. And there is no specific torque sequence on these, but you always start in the center and work your way out when you're doing torque sequences. So it'd be like 1, 2, or 1, 2. It doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 5, 6, 7, 8. However you want to do it. 29 foot-pounds. Getting them all started. And then we'll run them in with my little impact like I've been doing. Let me get it and the torque wrench ready. All right, let's go. Okay, that got them all started. Torque time. We're gonna go half torque first, as always. So half of 29 is like 14 and a half. Just go 15 or 14 if you feel better doing it 14. I'm using an extension to get to these long ones on the inside. This thing's gonna want to fall over on me. 15, 15. 15, I'm going to go ahead and do the ones on this side. It doesn't matter. You can do either side. 15. 15. 15. 15. Now we're going to crank it on. All right, let's do it. I'm going to go around. Ooh, that doesn't seem like it's enough, does it? Check that one again. Why it click so soon? There we go. All right, we're there. So basically, we've just built this engine, and that's how it goes. So now it's time for a leak down test. I don't know whether I should do that in this video, or I think I will do it in this video just to show you the process. So let me get my stuff. So with this one, the bolts go through, you use the regular bolts that bolt up the exhaust together, and then nuts. You got to use nuts on this 800. The bolts were for the 1200, and I think it was the same plate. I got lucky or something. Or anyway, I found a way to do the 1300, 1200s. You got to tighten these up. You get that plate tight with the silicone to seal it up. Okay, so to perform the leak down test, soapy water all over, everywhere where there's a mating surface. I should have left the front cover off. Not really a concern right now because I already know I've got a leak. I already pre-tested it before I did this. I'll show you where. Soap your block up. Put a little air to it, no more than 5 pounds of pressure. We got an issue in the rear main. This is kind of a jackleg way to do this. I was having problems with these popping out at very low pressure because it's hard. What you really need is a piece of rubber or a plate that doesn't have holes in it to fit on there. I don't have that, so I'm having to do what I can with what I got, which seems to be the story of my life. Let's see. So see how that popped right out? You go in with low pressure. Let me take the pressure back off of it for a minute. Pop that back in. It doesn't take much air pressure to pop these things. So let's ease into it a little bit. Let me back this off. I've got a pressure regulator knob there. I can monitor how much pressure I'm putting it in right there. So we go in. I've got nothing on it right now because I've backed it off so far. So we're going to go up. Let's go just a little. So I can already hear it leaking. I can already hear it leaking. Dang it, I hate that compressor. No good for video. I hear an air leak. Looking for bubbles. Looking for bubbles. I thought it was going to be the rear main. There it is. See that? Got air seeping out at the rear main seal. That's not good. Turn it up a little bit. You cannot have that. Now, I thought it was going to be leaking at the outer of the rear main. It looks like it's leaking around the center. Look at that. That's no good. She's blowing bubbles at the rear main. You cannot have a jet ski function with an air leak like that on such a low pressure. Look at that. I don't even have 1 pound of pressure going through it. I can crank it up. And see, it'll start leaking through those. But that ain't good. I've got to pull the bottom in. Those are brand new seals. I did lube them up. I don't know what the problem is, but it's pouring air out of there. Pouring air out the rear main. That will burn your engine up. So bottom end's got to come back apart.